original Mexicans. All right, we're speaking about the tribe of Issachar or Issachar. Some will say Issachar, but it's not. It's not Issachar. It's Issachar. Issachar. All right, the tribe of. According to that, now I know a lot of folks say that the chart, the Israelites' chart, is a fraud or fake. We've already touched on that subject matter to explain that it's a contextual sort of thing. You know, at the time, it was, for example, back in the 30s, if you go back to the 1930s and we point to the J.A. Rogers book, the J.A. Rogers book, The Real Facts About Ethiopia, there's an article in that publication from 1936. And why that book is so important to us, because it's a witness. Can I get a witness? It's a witness from that time. It speaks about what do the Ethiopians feel about the Afro-Americans. One word, Afro-American, no hyphenation, Afra, like Ephraim, Afra. What do the Ethiopians think about the Afro-Americans? You got to check it out. I think they have PDFs. We might also have a PDF, a soft copy. If it's a small book, but if you can get a copy of it, definitely get a copy, or you can maybe print out a copy of it, because it's little, but it's talawa. You know, tinish gintalak no. So it was saying that the Ethiopians, from what I recall paraphrasing, that ones would say that the Ethiopians don't consider themselves Negro. I remember this was a conversation reasonment back in the 1930s. Right? The book is copyrighted 1936. So witness to those days. That the Ethiopians didn't consider themselves Negroes. And J.A. Rogers, in answering that concern among some Afro-Americans, once lost, now found, black and brown sheep over here in this North Country, the America, he said that is true, but neither do, you know, they don't know the word. They don't use, they object to the word, Negro. They object to it. Right? And so do the Negroes, you know, south of the Rio Grande. In other words, those of us here in the Americas, you know, we utilize, but it's not like we chose that term. You got to recognize that in other areas, right? For example, among the Spanish speaking, Israelites of Negro descent, and also those who are not of Negro descent, the word negro, negrita, negro, negrita, the negro Cristo, you know, negro, the black Christ, of course. You know, that's so very important that many of our brothers and sisters south of the Rio Grande do recognize, or did recognize, the negro Christos. In fact, what was it, January 9th, I Earth Strong, there was, I think, a procession, the procession of the Black Christ, hallelujah, on I Earth Day. You know, normally I don't even pay attention to that so much, you know, it's a time, it's a calculation, but because, you know, our brothers recognize the Black Christ, I give thanks. But the original Mexicans, or the Spaniard babies, this is what you see in the still right there. And now we're looking for something else. We came across this, which really connected with something else that we had seen earlier. There's a video out there by a Hebrew brother, an Israelite brother, who is might be somewhat controversial. Not that we agree with him on everything, but it was interesting that he disagreed with some of the alphabet Hebrews, the alphabet black Hebrews, like, you know, the ISUPK, the UPK, the GMS, the GOCC, the IUIC, the MIC, KEY, MOUSC, you know, for different groups out there on some really important doctrinal and scriptural themes. And so we saw a video, the video's called, I think it's named The Hispanics. The Hispanics Are Not Israelites. I think there's a few videos where some go into this particular subject matter, or subject of concern. And there are various opinions, but also some interesting researches and evidence that I think needs to be looked at, concerning the subject matter. So coming across this still, I think it was on a Pinterest. Everybody using that. Not everybody, but a lot of folks using that right there. So back to the J.A. Rogers book, The Real Facts About Ethiopia, and the article in that. What do the Ethiopians feel about the Afro-Americans? Remember Ethiopia represents the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Yehuda Moa Anbesa, right? Judah, right? The kingdom authority of Judah. Afro-American. Ephraim. Now, I know someone tell you, oh, Ephraim is this. No, first of all, let's look at the facts. Before all this wick-wack, pseudo-Israelite and Hebrewism started to sprout up, after the time of the martyrdom, of the 67, and this is where we get this counterfeit Israelitism, some true things, some false things, the good, the bad, the mix. It's like when Christ speaks about the parables concerning the kingdom. Well, Christ speaks about the Pharisee. Before the rise of these black Israelitish Pharisees, some of these black Hebrew Pharisees, that's basically what they are. They're like the Pharisees. They're exactly like the Pharisees. And I'm so happy that some of the other brothers, even some who are part of this, are beginning to recognize that as they continue to grow in grace, and the knowledge of I, Black Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Adonai, Yeshua, HaMoshiach. But now, who are the original Mexicans? So this pic here, I thought it's just like a picture is like 1,000 words. This picture here backs up what J.A. Rogers witnessed and the testimony that he gave in that 1936 work, The Real Facts About Ethiopia, where he said that the Ethiopians, some black sheeple, right? The blacks in America, they objected, or they felt that some of the Ethiopians didn't call themselves Negroes. And J.A. Rogers sought to bring home the point that we're looking at it from our perspective over here, not recognizing that from the royal the holy Ethiopia, from that holy covenant perspective, right? That Haile Selassie is the point man of the sign and the seal, right? Of Revelation 5:5, that they object to the word because if they submit to that word, it's like coming under white supremacy, which they have through the grace of God and the holy covenant been able to successfully oppose and resist. So why should they? So it's like blacks saying, well, we have been enslaved. Why don't those who are free, who are holding our sovereignty, also be enslaved too? So when J.A. Rogers presented, like, listen, they object to the word Negro, right? Because of the very same reason that many Negroes, ones who will be called Negroes, blacks, right? Israelites really of Negro descent, do south of the Rio Grande. And when I read that, I said, south of the Rio Grande, I started thinking about Mexican divorce, over the Rio Grande. When you pass the Rio Grande, you're going into Mexico. There's this whole song, Mexican Divorce. We're going to share it on the air. I think it's a Sanchez tune. He kind of does a cover on that tune right there. But at first it didn't stick out what J.A. Rogers was saying. But then later on, especially now as we, ask, are Hispanics Israelites? Some brothers and sisters say, without any racism or any of that kind of white Eurocentric crap. But just in the reality, what about the original Mexican? What about the original Israelite? Look at this pic. Now, I don't even know if this is was a Hebrew Israelite site or reasoning. We just saw the pic. We grabbed it just as a kind of a visual to show the difference. Now, many of the so-called Spaniard babies are the ones who look like the ones on the bottom right there. It doesn't mean that there's not a negrita. They don't have a Negro, the Negro in the closet, the Negro grandma, the negrita in the closet, or the morena. There might be the morena, in the closet, as it were. That so-called mix, or the one that has that Afro or black blood, or might be of that Israelitish descent. So I think that's the real main point. And it's whether, for example, J.A. Rogers is stating that back in 1936, if you went south of the Rio Grande, you would find Mexicans, or what ones would have said maybe, I don't know if they called them Hispanic people back then. I have to look into the data, whatnot. But those who are called Mexicans right then, who were black and brown people, as the negrita, the grandmama you see with the big stogie right there. She looked just like my nana, for real. She looked just like my nana right there, Sarah. Anyway, even the brother right there, in the center. And then you also see the woman and her child right on the side. Let's see if we can just move this down a little bit more so you can see a fullness of it. Yeah, this is a little better right there. All right, that's a little better right there. Now, many of the ones like on the bottom, the Spaniard babies, no doubt, there's probably a negrita in the closet. But see, here's the point. It's not judging ones. Okay, you look like this, you look like that. It's about truth, right? It's about truth. Take grandma out the closet, recognize and bear witness to what really happened. What happened to all of those black people, right, that were south of the Rio Grande in Central and South America? What happened to them? That's the question. What happened to them? If in 1936, it was clear that there were Negroes across the Rio Grande that we would call so-called Mexicans today, on that region that we call Mexico today. What happened to them when we look at the picture today? Remember, that was 1936. It's 2017. All right. So what happened in over 77, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81 years? What happened in about 81 years? Interesting. 81. What happened in 81 years? Tourism, horrorism. Remember, Contra? You remember all that warfare that took place? And Ethiopia, there's an article in that, publication from 1936. And why that book is so important to us, because it's a witness. Can I get a witness? It's a witness from that time. It speaks about what do the Ethiopians feel about the Afro-Americans. One word, Afro-American, no hyphenation, Afro, like Ephraim. It was saying that the Ethiopians, from what I recall paraphrasing, that ones would say that the Ethiopians don't consider themselves Negro. I remember this was a conversation reasonment back in the 1930s. Right? The book is copyrighted 1936. So witness to those days that the Ethiopians didn't consider themselves Negroes. Afro. What do the Ethiopians think about the Afro-Americans? You got to check it out. I think they have PDFs. We might also have a PDF, a soft copy. If it's a small book, but if you can get a copy of it, definitely get a copy, or you can maybe print out a copy of it, because it's lickle, but it's talawa. Tinish gintalak no. Oh, so original Mexicans. I was speaking about the tribe of Issachar or Issachar. Some will say Issachar, but it's not. It's not Issachar. It's Issachar. Issachar, right? The tribe of. According to that, now I know a lot of folks say that the chart, the Israelites' chart, is a fraud or fake. We've already touched on that subject matter to explain that it's a contextual sort of thing. At the time, it was, for example, back in the 30s, if you go back to the 1930s and we point to the J.A. Rogers book, The Real Facts About Ethiopia.